At my father's funeral, my name was missing from the program. Not misspelled, not misplaced, missing. The front page said, "In loving memory of Raymond Bennett, beloved husband, father mentor, and founder of Bennett Family Kitchen, undersurvived." By it listed my stepmother Denise, my half-sister Kelsey, my brother Noah, and my husband Ethan. My husband, not me. Then Ethan stood near my father's casket, shook hands with mourners, and told them Ray trusted me to carry the family forward. The only problem was Ray Bennett was my father, and Ethan had spent the last 7 years making sure I felt like a guest in my own family. I was still staring at the funeral program when Dad's oldest friend leaned close and whispered, "Mara, don't go home with your husband tonight." I looked up. Ethan was across the cemetery watching me. Not grieving, not concerned, watching, like a man waiting to see whether a trap had closed. My name is Mara Bennett Carter. I was 32 years old the morning we buried my father under a gray November sky outside Columbus, Ohio. The wind was sharp enough to cut through my black coat, but I barely felt it. All I could feel was the paper in my hand. That funeral program, that tiny folded piece of cardstock where my entire life had been erased in 12-point font. People kept touching my shoulder and saying, "I'm so sorry, honey." But none of them seemed to notice I was not listed as Ray Bennett's daughter. My father owned Bennett Family Kitchen, a small family restaurant and catering business that had fed our town for almost 30 years. Weddings, church luncheons, graduation parties, funerals, factory layoffs, snowstorms. If someone in Franklin County had a baby, lost a job, buried a parent, or needed 50 pans of baked ziti by Saturday, they called my dad. To everyone else, he was Ray. To me, he was the man who packed my lunch until I was 17, because he said buying school cafeteria pizza 4 days a week was how civilizations collapse. He was the man who taught me how to make biscuits by touch, how to stretch grocery money, how to know when chicken stock had gone from good to holy. He was also the man who used to say, "Never trust somebody who volunteers to speak for you before they've asked what you want to say." I wish I had remembered that before I married Ethan Carter. Ethan stood 3 rows ahead of me in a navy suit, one hand resting on my stepmother Denise's back. Not mine. Denise cried beautifully. Some people cry from pain. Some cry like they know they are being watched. Her black veil fluttered in the wind. Her lipstick stayed perfect. Every few minutes, she leaned into Ethan, and every few minutes, Ethan squeezed her shoulder like they were the two people at the center of the loss. My half-sister, Kelsey, 23, stood beside them with her phone in one hand. She had already posted a carousel of funeral photos. I knew because my phone buzzed while the pastor was speaking. Kelsey had tagged me. The caption read, "Today we say goodbye to the man who built everything for us. Mom, Ethan, Noah, and I will do our best to protect your legacy. Rest easy, Dad." Mom, Ethan, Noah, Kelsey, not Mara. Again, I stared at that post until the letters blurred. A stranger in the comments wrote, "So glad Ethan is stepping up for your family." Stepping up. That was the phrase everyone kept using. Ethan is stepping up. Ethan is handling things. Ethan is being so strong. No one asked why my husband was standing where my father's daughter should have stood. No one asked why I had been quietly moved to the edge of my own grief. That is the thing about being the dependable one in a family. People do not notice when you are pushed aside. They assume you moved there to make room. The pastor finished the prayer. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. My father's casket began to lower. And that was when Calvin Price grabbed my wrist. Calvin was 71 with silver hair, tired eyes, and a voice that always sounded like it had been dragged across gravel before breakfast. He had known my father since high school. He handled paperwork for the restaurant, vendor leases, payroll problems, insurance renewals, nothing dramatic. He was not some flashy attorney in a glass tower. He had a small office between a dentist and a tax preparer. But my father trusted him more than anyone. Calvin leaned close. "Mara," he whispered, "don't go home with Ethan tonight." I turned toward him. "What?" His fingers tightened. "After the burial, go to the restaurant, back door, old pantry room, come alone." My heart began to pound. "Calvin, what's going on?" His eyes flicked past me. I followed his gaze. Ethan had turned. He was staring directly at us. His face wore the soft mask of a grieving husband, but his eyes were sharp and flat. Calvin released my wrist instantly and stepped away as if he had only offered condolences. Ethan started toward me. I folded the funeral program in half and slipped it into my coat pocket, like evidence of a crime no one had named yet. "There you are," Ethan said, reaching for my elbow. "You shouldn't wander off." "I'm standing at my father's grave." His smile tightened. "You know what I mean. You're overwhelmed." There it was, the word he had been using all week. Overwhelmed, not grieving, not shocked, not devastated. Overwhelmed. It made me sound unstable, small, manageable. "I need a minute," I said. "You've had a minute." His thumb pressed lightly into my arm. "People are waiting at the house." "For what?" His eyes flickered. "The luncheon, family conversations, decisions that can't wait forever." My father had not even been lowered fully into the ground. "Decisions," I repeated. Ethan leaned closer, still smiling for the people around us. "Mara, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at his hand on my arm, then at Denise, who was watching us over her handkerchief, then at Kelsey, still on her phone, then at Noah, my older brother, standing near his wife Andrea, looking like a man who wanted to speak but had forgotten how. I pulled my arm free. "I'll meet you there." Ethan's smile disappeared for half a second. Then it returned. "Don't be long." He walked away. I stood at my father's grave until the workers began covering the casket. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But something colder than grief had started moving through me. Fear, maybe, or recognition. The old Bennett family kitchen was 2 blocks from the church. The sign above the door was faded green and white, hand-painted by my mother before she died. Dad refused to replace it. "New signs look like they're trying too hard," he always said. The front window still had Thanksgiving specials written in chalk. Turkey dinner trays, pumpkin pie, cornbread stuffing, closed for family bereavement, the paper sign said. I went around back. My key still worked. For 1 second, standing in that alley, I almost broke down. The smell hit me first. Cold fryer oil, lemon cleaner, coffee grounds, flour, my father. The kitchen was dark, quiet, and spotless. His apron hung by the office door, the one that said, "Don't rush the gravy, it knows." I touched it with 2 fingers. Then I heard a woman crying in the pantry. I froze. Calvin stepped out first. "Mara." Behind him stood a woman in a black dress, arms wrapped around herself, eyes red and swollen. I knew her. Lydia Price, Calvin's daughter. She worked at Northside Family Clinic, where my father had been going for heart appointments. She was also the woman whose name I had seen on Ethan's phone at 1:18 in the morning 3 months ago. Back then, he told me she was helping with medical paperwork for Ray. Back then, I wanted so badly to believe him that I did. That is one of the most humiliating parts of betrayal. Not the lie, the memory of how hard you worked to help them lie to you. Lydia looked at me and started crying harder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I stared at her. "For what?" She looked at Calvin. He nodded once, like a father giving permission to confess. Lydia wiped her face with shaking hands. "Mara, Ethan didn't just cheat on you with me." The kitchen went silent. My heart dropped. She forced herself to look at me. "He used me to get access to your father's prescriptions." For a moment, I could not hear anything. Not the refrigerator hum. Not the wind outside. Not Calvin breathing beside me. Only that sentence. "Ethan didn't just cheat on you with me. He used me to get access to your father's prescriptions." I took a step back. "Number." Lydia flinched. I didn't know what he was doing at first. "That's what people always say after they help." Her face crumpled. Calvin said quietly, "Let her finish." I wanted to hate him too for asking me to listen. But I listened. Because my father was in the ground, and my husband was at the house preparing decisions, and my name was missing from the program. Lydia held out a brown envelope. I did not take it. "Talk," I said. She swallowed. "Ethan told me your dad was forgetting his medication. He said you were exhausted and needed help. He had your father's date of birth, insurance information, pharmacy details, everything. At first, he just asked me to print refill schedules. Then he started asking me to process changes before the doctor reviewed them." "What changes?" "Timing, dosage requests, delays, early refill flags, things that looked small separately." Calvin's face was pale. Lydia continued. "Your father's blood work started getting strange in August. It looked like he was missing some meds and doubling up on others. I asked Ethan about it. He said Ray was confused and you were the one organizing the pills. My mouth went dry. I saw myself at Dad's kitchen table every Sunday night, opening orange pill bottles, reading labels, filling the little plastic organizer marked Monday through Sunday. Dad joking, "You're better than any nurse I could afford." Me smiling because helping him made me feel useful. Useful. Ethan's favorite word for me when he wanted something. "You handed me those pharmacy bags," I whispered. Lydia nodded, crying. "He told me you knew." "I didn't. I know that now." I laughed once. It sounded ugly. "You know that now." She covered her mouth. Calvin set a hand on the metal shelf beside him. "Mara, your father suspected something. He called me 3 weeks ago. He said if anything happened before Christmas, I was to find you before Ethan did." Dad knew, enough to be scared. That hurt in a place I did not have a name for. My father had known something was wrong, and I had still sat beside him sorting pills. I had still cooked him oatmeal. I had still watched him swallow what I thought would help him. I gripped the shelf until my fingers hurt. Lydia pushed the envelope toward me again. There are clinic records, texts, security screenshots, Ethan asking me to clear things, asking me to delete things. He came to me yesterday after Ray died and said Mara will be handled after the funeral. Handled. I almost doubled over. Not loved. Not protected. Handled. Like a problem. Like a delay. Like a woman too broken to inherit anything. I took the envelope. Inside were printouts, screenshots, emails, refill notes, and a flash drive. Boring things. Ordinary things. That made them worse. My father had not been destroyed by one dramatic act. He had been worn down by ordinary betrayals disguised as care. A changed refill. A delayed appointment. A daughter asked to help. A husband pretending concern. Calvin reached into his coat and pulled out a small brass key with a blue tag. "Your father told me to give you this if Lydia came forward." "What does it open?" "The locked panel in the barn kitchen, behind the flower bins." I frowned. "There is no locked panel behind the flower bins." Calvin gave me a sad smile. "Your father hid things where only family who worked would look." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. "Ethan, where are you?" "Everyone is waiting." Then another. "Don't embarrass yourself today. Let me take care of this." I looked at the screen. Calvin said, "Don't answer." But I did. I typed, "I'm coming." Then I looked at Calvin and Lydia. I need to hear what they say when they think I still don't know. Calvin shook his head. "Mara, Ethan is dangerous." "No," I said. Ethan was dangerous when I trusted him. And for the first time that day, my voice did not shake. My father's house sat on 5 acres outside town. Not a mansion, not an estate, just a wide white farmhouse with green shutters, a gravel driveway, a vegetable garden, and a barn. Dad had converted into a catering prep kitchen. It was the kind of house people called charming when they did not know how many winters the pipes had frozen. By the time I arrived, every downstairs light was on. Cars filled the driveway. Denise's sister, Kelsey's boyfriend, Noah's truck, Ethan's black SUV parked closest to the porch. Of course, I walked around the side of the house instead of going in the front. The dining room curtains were open halfway. Inside, my family sat around Dad's table. There were plates of funeral sandwiches in the center. No one had saved me a seat. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the papers in Ethan's hand. Not Denise sitting in Dad's chair. Not Kelsey typing on her phone. The chair. There were enough chairs for everyone else. No chair for me. Sometimes a family tells the truth by accident. Denise sat at the head of the table in my father's chair, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Ethan stood beside her. He looked comfortable. That made me hate him more than if he had looked smug. Denise said Mara is not in the right state of mind. Ray adored her, of course, but love and responsibility are not the same thing. My body went cold. Kelsey nodded without looking up. People online are asking who's taking over the restaurant. We need a clear post before rumors start. Noah said maybe we should wait until Mara gets here. Denise sighed. That is exactly the problem. We are always waiting for Mara's feelings to settle. Ethan placed his hand on Denise's shoulder. Ray and I talked about this. He knew Mara wasn't built for pressure. Noah looked up. Dad said that. Ethan smiled. Not in those words. Of course not, because my father would have thrown a biscuit cutter at his head. Denise leaned forward. Mara was his daughter. I was his wife. At some point, this family has to stop acting like childhood memories are the same as adult authority. Childhood memories. She meant my mother. She meant the restaurant. She meant me. Kelsey turned her phone around. I drafted a post. I stepped closer to the window. The post showed a photo of Ethan, Denise, and Kelsey under the Bennett family kitchen sign. Caption: After Ray Bennett's passing, we are grateful to announce that Ethan Carter will help guide Bennett Family Kitchen into its next chapter. Our family asks for privacy and unity during this transition. Privacy and unity. Two words people use when they want silence from the person they harmed. Noah read it and frowned. Where's Mara? Kelsey blinked. She doesn't like being photographed. I mean, in the announcement. Denise's voice sharpened. Mara walked away after the burial. Noah said she lost her father. I lost my husband, Denise snapped. Silence. Then Ethan spoke gently. We all lost someone, but someone has to be stable enough to lead. Lead. My father's body was barely in the ground, and Ethan was already auditioning for the role of grieving heir. He opened the folder. The cleanest option is simple. Mara signs temporary management to me. Denise remains the public face. Kelsey handles social media. Noah can stay involved in finance if he cooperates. Noah's chair scraped. If I cooperate, Ethan's smile thinned. There were some deposit irregularities last quarter. I'm sure they're innocent. But if Mara starts a fight innocent, things can look suspicious. Noah went pale. So that was the leash. My brother. Ethan had one for everyone. For Denise, the fear of being replaced. For Kelsey, attention. For Noah, shame. For me, guilt. I stepped back from the window. I had heard enough. I walked to the front door and opened it without knocking. Everyone turned. No one looked happy to see me. That hurt more than I expected. Ethan smiled first. There you are. I looked at the empty space where my chair should have been. Where should I sit? No one moved. Noah stood quickly. Mara, take mine. I shook my head. No, I just wanted to see how long it took anyone to notice. Kelsey looked away. Denise folded her hands. Mara, this is not the time for dramatics. My father's funeral program didn't list me as his daughter. Denise's mouth tightened. That was a printing mistake. Kelsey's post didn't list me either. Kelsey muttered. It wasn't intentional. I looked at her. Erasing someone rarely feels intentional to the person holding the eraser. Ethan sighed. Mara, you're exhausted. Sit down. There's no chair. Noah grabbed one from the kitchen and placed it beside me. I'm sorry, he said quietly. It was not enough. But it was the first real thing anyone had said. I sat. Ethan pushed the folder toward me. Let's handle this calmly. Handle, I repeated. His eyes narrowed slightly. Good. He heard it. I placed my hands on the table. What am I signing? Temporary Management Authority. It lets me keep the restaurant catering contracts, house maintenance payroll, and vendor accounts stable while the family processes Ray's estate. My father had a bookkeeper. Your father had a mess. The room went still. Noah's head snapped up. I looked at Ethan. What did you say? Ethan recovered fast. I mean emotionally. His passing created a mess. No, I said, you said what you meant. Denise leaned forward. Ray was sentimental. That business needs modernization. Ethan understands that. Ethan flips houses. Systems are systems, Ethan said. I almost heard Dad laughing from the kitchen. You've never worked a lunch rush in your life, I said. I don't need to fry chicken to understand profit. There it was. The contempt. The thing he had hidden behind smiles for years. Dad's restaurant was not legacy to him. It was underpriced square footage. Ethan leaned closer. Mara, sign the papers. Take time away. Grieve. Let people who can handle pressure protect what Ray built. And if I don't, his voice lowered, then I protect this family from you. Noah stood again. What does that mean? Ethan did not look at him. His eyes stayed on me. It means there is camera footage from the back kitchen. Months of footage. Mara filling Ray's pill organizer every Sunday night. Alone. The room changed. Kelsey's phone lowered. Denise stopped breathing for half a second. Noah looked between us. What is he talking about? I stared at Ethan. He looked almost sorry. That was his best performance yet. If questions are asked about Ray's medication, Ethan said the footage will show who handled it. Noah slammed his hand on the table. Say what you're implying. Ethan finally looked at him. I am implying your sister needs to be very careful before she starts accusing people. Noah stepped toward him. No, you don't get to do that vague threat thing. Say it plainly. Ethan's smile sharpened. Fine. Your sister was the one filling the pillboxes while your father got worse. Noah's face went white. Denise whispered, Ethan, don't. So she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. I stood slowly. You gave me those refills. Ethan leaned back. Did I? You told me the doctor changed the schedule. You believed me. The room went silent. He realized the words had slipped out only after they landed. Kelsey stared at him. Noah said softly, What did you just say? Ethan's jaw tightened. She's twisting it. I looked at Denise. You heard him. Denise's eyes filled, but she said nothing. Of course she said nothing. Silence had been her favorite contribution all along. I picked up the folder and slid it back to Ethan. I need 10 minutes. He laughed once. For what? To say goodbye to the barn kitchen. Denise stood. Mara, stop making everything symbolic. I looked at her. You're sitting in my father's chair. Her face flushed. Ethan studied me. He thought I was cracking. He liked me better that way. 10 minutes, he said. Then you sign, or tomorrow morning this town hears a very different story about Ray Bennett's final months. Noah moved toward me. I'm coming with you. I shook my head. No, stay here. He hesitated. I looked him in the eye. And this time, listen. I walked out before anyone could follow. The barn kitchen smelled like stainless steel yeast cardboard boxes and old wood. I turned on the overhead lights. Everything looked exactly as Dad left it. The big mixer, the prep tables, the walk-in cooler, the dented stock pot he refused to throw away, the radio that only played 2 stations unless you hit it on the left side. I went straight to dry storage, behind the flour bins. I moved the first 50-pound bag, then the second. White dust rose into the air, coating my black funeral dress. Behind the third bag, I found a seam in the wall panel. Calvin's brass key fit into a tiny lock hidden under a sliding metal plate. The panel opened with a soft click. Inside was my mother's old blue recipe box. My breath caught. Dad told me that box had broken years ago. I took it down with both hands. Inside were no recipes. There was a flash drive, a stack of envelopes, a small digital recorder, and a note in my father's handwriting. Mara, if you are reading this, Calvin did what I asked, and Ethan is close enough to what he wants that he has stopped pretending. I am sorry, baby girl. You did not make me sick. You did not fail me. You trusted the wrong person because you love the right way. That is not your shame. I need you to listen to the recorder before you sign anything. And remember this, a family that requires your silence is not protecting peace. It is protecting the person who broke it. Dad, I pressed the note to my mouth. For the first time since the funeral, I sobbed. Not quietly, not gracefully. I cried in the flour dust of my father's barn kitchen, holding proof that even while dying he had tried to reach me. Then I pressed play. Dad's voice filled the room. It was weaker than I remembered, but it was him. Mara, if you're hearing this, then I need to say the most important thing first. You did not kill me. I bent forward, one hand over my mouth. You helped me because I asked you to help. You filled my pills because I trusted you. If Ethan uses that against you, understand this clearly. He is not exposing your guilt. He is exposing his plan. The recording clicked. A second audio file began. Dad's office. Chairs moving. Ethan's voice irritated. Ray, you're confused. Dad's voice answered, tired but firm. My blood work says someone has been interrupting my medication. You're old, you're sick. That's what happens. I never gave you permission to speak with my clinic. You gave Mara permission. Mara is my wife. That is not the same thing. A pause. Then Ethan laughed softly. Be careful, Ray. If you start throwing accusations, everyone will wonder why Mara was the one filling your pills. Dad's voice dropped. Are you threatening my daughter? I'm protecting my wife from your paranoia. No, Dad said. You're hiding behind her. Another pause. Then Ethan said the sentence that made my hands go numb. You always thought she was stronger than she is. She'll do what I tell her. She always does. The recording ended. I sat in the kitchen covered in flour, holding my father's last defense of me. Ethan thought tears meant surrender. He had no idea tears could rinse fear out of a body. By the time the barn door opened, I had put the recorder and the flash drive in my coat pocket. Ethan stepped inside. His eyes moved to the flour bags. What were you doing? Saying goodbye. He walked closer. You look terrible. I buried my father today. No, he said softly. You're starting to understand what happens when you make me your enemy. I looked at him. You were my enemy while sleeping in my bed. His face hardened. The mask cracked fully for the first time. You ungrateful little martyr! There he was, the real Ethan. You think this place is some sacred temple because your father fed broke people and let old ladies pay with coupons. It's a greasy little diner sitting on land that could be worth 3 times more if someone with vision got control of it. I stared. He smiled. Ray was sentimental. I'm practical. I almost thanked him. He had just said the one thing that would have made my father rise from the grave and swing a cast-iron skillet. Come inside, he said. Now. I walked past him. This time I did not let him lead. When we returned to the dining room, Noah was standing. Kelsey was crying quietly. Denise looked angry, but beneath that anger was fear. Ethan placed the papers on the table again. Sign. I took the pen. Everyone watched. Then I set it down. Number. Ethan's expression emptied. Mara. Number. His voice turned cold. Then I released the footage. Noah stepped between us. No, you don't. Ethan blinked. Noah's hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. I stayed quiet at the cemetery. I stayed quiet at this table. I am not staying quiet while you accuse my sister of killing our father. Ethan smiled with contempt. You have no idea what you're defending. Noah stepped closer. Say one more word about Mara and you say it to me too. For 1 second, Ethan looked genuinely surprised. Bullies are always confused when silence ends. Kelsey stood next. Her phone was in her hand screen glowing. I deleted the announcement post. Denise turned. Kelsey. No, Mom. Kelsey's voice broke, but she kept going. I erased Mara. I did it because it was easier to follow Ethan than ask why my sister was being pushed out. I'm not doing it again. Ethan laughed. You're all being manipulated. Kelsey lifted her phone. And I just posted the truth. The room froze. What truth? Denise asked. Kelsey's hands shook. That Mara was left out of the funeral program and family announcement. That Ethan has been speaking for us without our consent. That Bennett family kitchen is closed until Mara decides what happens next. Ethan lunged for her phone. Noah blocked him. Don't. Denise stood so fast her chair hit the wall. Enough. This is a family matter. I looked at her. No. This became a public matter when you let my name be erased in public. Denise's face twisted. You don't understand what it was like being married to a man whose first wife was a ghost in every room and whose daughter knew every corner of his life better than I did. I stared at her. There it was. The wound under all the cruelty. But a wound is not a license. You were jealous of a dead woman and a grieving daughter, I said. Denise's eyes filled. You were always there. In the recipes, in the staff, in the way customers talked about your mother. Ray loved me, but this place never felt like mine. So you gave it to Ethan. I tried to make sure Kelsey had a future. No, Kelsey whispered. Denise turned. Kelsey wiped her face. You tried to make sure you mattered more than Mara. Denise looked as if she had been slapped. Ethan clapped once. A slow, mocking clap. Beautiful. Very touching. The broken little family finally blaming each other instead of the woman who handled Ray's medication. I reached into my coat pocket. Ethan saw the recorder. His face changed. That was the moment everyone else understood. He was not angry anymore. He was afraid. I pressed play. Dad's voice filled the dining room. Mara, if you're hearing this, then I need to say the most important thing first. You did not kill me. Denise sat down hard. Noah covered his mouth. Kelsey started crying again. The recording played. Dad explaining the medication. Ethan's threats. The office conversation. Then Ethan's own voice echoed through Bennett family kitchen. You always thought she was stronger than she is. She'll do what I tell her. She always does. The words hung in the room. In the place where I had washed dishes at 15, where Dad taught me to make gravy, where my mother painted the first sign, where Ethan had eaten free meals for 7 years while studying how to steal the table. When the recording ended, no one spoke. Ethan recovered first. That's edited. Calvin stepped out from the kitchen hallway. No, it isn't. Ethan turned. You. Calvin walked in holding the brown envelope Lydia had given me. And neither are the clinic records. Behind him stood Lydia Price. Her face was pale, but she did not look away this time. Ethan's face twisted. You stupid girl. Lydia flinched, then lifted her chin. I was stupid when I believed you. I'm done being stupid for you. Kelsey whispered, oh my God. Ethan looked around the room, realizing the stage had changed. He had come to watch me surrender. Instead, everyone was watching him bleed truth. He pointed at me. You think this makes you powerful? You're a waitress with a dead father and a restaurant drowning in debt. I stepped toward him. No. I am Ray Bennett's daughter. I am Margaret Bennett's daughter. I am the woman who kept this kitchen running while you were calculating what it was worth without me in it. He sneered. Without me, this place stays a greasy little charity case feeding people who can't pay. Denise inhaled sharply. Noah's eyes darkened. Kelsey looked disgusted, and I smiled. Not because it was funny, because he had finally said it in front of everyone. The truth. Ethan did not want my father's legacy. He hated it. He only wanted the value of the land beneath it. The front door opened. 2 police officers stepped inside with Joanne Miller, a former detective my father had hired months before he died. Ethan looked at them, then at me. What did you do? Joanne answered. She listened to her father. One officer said, Mr. Carter, we need you to come with us to answer questions about harassment, unlawful entry at Mrs. Carter's apartment, and evidence related to Mr. Bennett's medical care. Ethan laughed. You have nothing. Joanne held up another phone. Your father already gave a statement about entering Mara's apartment last night. The color drained from Ethan's face. Gary Carter, Ethan's father, had broken into my apartment after the funeral looking for whatever Dad left me. I had not even known Joanne had found him. Ethan looked at Denise. Tell them Ray wanted me to take over. Denise stared at him. For a long second I thought she might lie. Then she stepped back. Ethan's face changed. Denise. She looked at the floor. Ray never wanted you. The words landed like a gavel. Ethan stared at her. Then Kelsey lifted her phone. And if you keep lying, I'll post the recording. Ethan turned on her. You little... Noah moved fast. He stepped in front of Kelsey. Finish that sentence. Ethan stopped. The officers took him by the arm. For the first time since I had known him, Ethan Carter looked small. Not sad. Not sorry. Small. As they led him toward the door, he looked back at me. You'll regret this. I shook my head. No, Ethan, I already regret you. This is me correcting it. The cruiser pulled away 10 minutes later. By then, half the town had gathered across the street. Of course they had. Small towns do not need invitations to public consequences. For years, I had feared being talked about. That morning, I realized something. People had already been talking. They had just been repeating Ethan's story. Now they would hear mine. Inside the restaurant, no one moved. Denise sat in Dad's chair, suddenly looking like she had aged 10 years. Kelsey stood near Noah, still holding her phone. Calvin wiped his glasses. Lydia stood by the door like someone waiting to be dismissed from a room she had no right to enter. I looked at her. Thank you for telling the truth. Her eyes filled. I should have told it sooner. Yes, I said. She nodded. I know. She waited maybe for forgiveness. I did not give it. Not because I hated her too much. Because I had finally learned that forgiveness offered too quickly can become another way of abandoning yourself. Calvin cleared his throat. There's one more recording. I looked at him. From Dad. He nodded. He asked that it be played only if the family heard the truth together. I almost said no. I was tired of surprises, tired of dead men knowing more than the living. But Noah whispered, please. So Calvin connected the flash drive to the small television above the counter. Dad appeared on screen sitting in his office at the restaurant. He was thinner than I remembered. His flannel shirt hung loose around his shoulders, but his eyes were still my father's eyes. Well, he said, smiling faintly, if you're watching this, then I'm probably not there to stop everybody from making fools of themselves. Noah laughed and cried at the same time. Dad looked into the camera. Denise, she covered her mouth. I loved you. But love is not blindness. You spent too many years competing with memories that were never trying to beat you. Margaret was my first wife. Mara is my daughter. Neither one of them was your enemy. Denise closed her eyes. I should have made you feel safer. That is on me. But insecurity does not give anyone permission to hurt my child. Kelsey began to sob. Dad turned slightly toward the camera as if he could see her. Kelsey, baby girl. Attention is not the same as love. A post is not the same as loyalty. Don't spend your life being seen by strangers while missing the people beside you. Kelsey lowered her head. Noah. My brother stood straighter. You hate conflict because I taught you to. I kept peace too long in rooms where truth was begging for air. Don't repeat that. Protect your sister when it costs you something, not only when it feels safe. Noah wiped his face. Then Dad's eyes softened. Mara. My knees almost gave out. My steady girl. My first miracle. Your mother used to say you came into the world looking worried about everyone else. After she died, I leaned on you too hard. You became useful before you had the chance to be young. I am sorry. I pressed both hands to my mouth. You are not hard to love. You are not too emotional. You are not fragile. You are tired. There is a difference. Denise cried silently. Kelsey whispered Mara. But I could not look away from the screen. Dad continued. I built Bennett Family Kitchen to feed people. Not to make anyone rich. Not to turn my family into shareholders sitting around a table measuring each other's worth. He paused to breathe. The business control goes to Mara. Not because paper makes her worthy. She was worthy before I signed anything. I chose her because she understood what this place was for. Ethan was gone, but I could still feel the echo of his contempt in the room. A greasy little diner. Dad smiled faintly. A legacy is not a building. It is how people remember being treated inside it. He looked tired now. So tired. Mara, if keeping this place helps you become more yourself, keep it. If it becomes a cage, walk away. I will love you either way. The video ended. No one spoke. The restaurant lights hummed. Outside cars passed on the street like the world had not just shifted under my feet. I looked at Dad's empty chair, then at Denise. You need to get up. She blinked. What? You're sitting in his chair. For a moment I thought she would argue. Then she stood. No drama. No speech. Just a woman finally understanding that grief had not made her queen. I pulled the chair out. But I did not sit. Not yet. Instead, I turned to everyone. Bennett Family Kitchen is closed for 2 weeks. Kelsey wiped her face. What about the Thanksgiving orders? I looked at her. We refund them, fulfill what we can for free, or donate what's already prepped. But no one is making stuffing over my father's blood just because the calendar says we should. Noah nodded. I'll call the vendors. Kelsey swallowed. I'll make the post. I looked at her. The truth, she nodded. The truth, Denise whispered. What happens to me? I looked at her for a long time. The woman who had sat in my father's chair. The woman who let my name disappear. The woman who had been wounded and chose to wound someone else. You get time to grieve, I said, but not control. Her face crumpled. Maybe she expected cruelty. Maybe mercy hurt worse. Over the next few weeks, the truth came out slowly, not cleanly. Real life almost never gives you one perfect ending scene. Ethan did not vanish into prison overnight like a movie villain. There were interviews, statements, clinic reviews, police questions. Gary Carter admitting Ethan sent him to search my apartment. Lydia turning over messages. Joanne connecting timelines my father had built quietly in the months before he died. Ethan claimed he was misunderstood, then stressed, then framed, then trying to protect the family. Men like Ethan always change costumes when the old one stops fitting. But the town had heard enough. Kelsey's post went viral locally first, then regionally. Not because it was polished, because it was honest. She wrote, Yesterday, I erased my sister from our family's grief. I let someone else tell me she was too emotional, too fragile, and too broken to lead. I was wrong. Mara Bennett carried this family long before any of us admitted it. Bennett Family Kitchen will reopen when she is ready. Until then, please respect her, not the rumors. She tagged me. For once, I did not feel erased by seeing my name online. Noah came to the restaurant every morning during the closure. At first, he tried to fix things. That was Noah, a man apologizing through tasks. He cleaned the walk-in cooler, called vendors, balanced accounts, repaired the loose hinge on the back door. Finally, on the 5th day, I handed him a cup of coffee and said, You can just say it. He stared at the floor. I'm sorry I let him speak for us. I said nothing. He continued. I saw things. Not all of it, but enough. The way he corrected you, the way Denise dismissed you, the way Kelsey copied it. I told myself staying quiet kept peace. His voice broke. It didn't. It just kept you alone. That one reached me. Not because it fixed everything, because it named the truth. I needed you, I said. I know. You were my big brother. I know. And I shouldn't have had to become strong enough for both of us. He cried then. So did I. Forgiveness did not happen in that moment, but something honest started. That was enough. Denise moved out of the farmhouse before Christmas. She said the house felt haunted. I think she meant it felt truthful. She left me a letter. 3 pages. The first page was apology. The second was explanation. The third tried to make her fear sound like love. I read it once and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I would answer. Maybe not. A person can understand your pain and still refuse to carry it for you. Lydia came by one rainy afternoon holding a paper bag. The restaurant was still closed. I was in the kitchen making soup for the shelter because grief made me restless, and chopping carrots was better than checking court updates. She stood near the back door. I found something in Ethan's car before I gave my statement. She placed the bag on the counter. Inside was Dad's red plaid scarf, the one missing after the funeral. I picked it up. It smelled faintly like him. Coffee, cedar, winter air. My hand shook. Why did he have this? Lydia looked down. I think he took it from the house. I don't know why. I knew why. Because people like Ethan collect proof that they have entered places they were never invited to own. Lydia whispered, "Do you forgive me?" The kitchen went very quiet. I folded the scarf carefully. Number. Her face tightened, but she nodded. I understand. I hope someday you become the kind of person who stops needing forgiveness from people you helped destroy. She cried. I did not comfort her. That was one of the first boundaries I ever kept without apologizing. Bennett Family Kitchen reopened 6 weeks later. Not as Bennett Family Kitchen. As Bennett Table. I kept the old green color. I kept Dad's biscuit recipe. I kept the lunch counter, the church catering the regulars who wanted coffee so weak it was basically brown weather. But I changed the sign. Bennett Table Meals Community Second Chances. Not second chances for people like Ethan. Second chances for people like me. People who had spent years being useful and needed to remember they were also alive. 2 nights a week, we served free dinners for families going through medical emergencies, job losses, funerals, divorces, and quiet disasters. We put a pantry shelf near the front door with a small sign, "Take what you need, leave what you can." No explanations required. The first woman who used it looked embarrassed. She had 2 children with her and took pasta peanut butter soup cans and diapers. I walked over and said, "My dad built this place for people to eat. You're helping us do our job." She cried. I cried later in the walk-in fridge between boxes of lettuce. Healing is not always graceful. Sometimes it happens in ugly little pieces while your hands smell like onions. Kelsey started working Saturday mornings. At first she was terrible. She burned toast, forgot table numbers, called regulars sir and ma'am in a voice that sounded like she was recording customer service training. But she kept showing up. No phone in her apron, no filming, no captions. One morning I saw her sitting with Mrs. Alvarez, an 80-year-old widow who came in every Tuesday for oatmeal and conversation. Kelsey listened for 20 minutes, did not interrupt, did not check her screen, did not make it about herself. That mattered more than another apology. Noah stayed too. He handled books and never again used silence as a strategy. Sometimes we fought. Real families do. But now when someone said something cruel, someone else said, "No, say that differently." That became our new tradition. Not pretending. Correcting. Ethan's case moved slowly. There were no fireworks. No perfect courtroom speech. No scene where he begged me to take him back. People online wanted that. They wanted the dramatic final look, the public apology, the villain crawling. But real revenge is not always loud. Sometimes revenge is waking up and realizing the person who controlled your breathing no longer controls the room. The day Ethan accepted a plea connected to coercion, unlawful entry, and interference in my father's care, I did not go to court. I was at Bennett Table before sunrise making biscuits. At 9:22 a.m., Joanne texted, "It's done." I stared at those 2 words. No music played. No tears came. The dough still needed cutting. The oven still needed preheating. A customer knocked early because he forgot we opened at 7. Life did not pause for justice. That was disappointing. Then comforting. Ethan had taken enough scenes from me. I did not need to give him another. That afternoon, I drove to the farmhouse alone. The house was empty. Denise had taken most of her furniture, the good towels, 3 mirrors, and every framed photo where she looked young and happy. She left Dad's chair. I sat in it for the first time. For months I thought sitting there would feel like claiming power. It did not. It felt like old leather cracked arms and the faint smell of coffee. A chair does not make someone powerful. Neither does a business. Neither does a name on a sign. Power is what you do when no one is forcing you to be small anymore. I opened Dad's final envelope. Inside was one last note. Mara, if you are reading this after the noise has quieted, then I hope you know something I should have told you every day. You were never hard to love. I leaned on you because you were strong, but I should have protected the softness in you too. I cannot undo that. What I can tell you is this: you do not owe your life to the people who only valued your usefulness. You do not owe forgiveness to people who want it because accountability feels uncomfortable. You do not owe my restaurant your youth, my name your future, or my mistakes your loyalty. Legacy is not what you keep. Legacy is what you heal before it reaches the next person. If Bennett Table becomes a place where tired people are fed with dignity, keep it. If it becomes a cage, walk away. I will love you either way. Dad, I read the last line until the sun moved across the floor. I will love you either way. That sentence gave me something inheritance never could. Permission. Not to be useful. Not to be strong. Not to carry everyone. Just to be. A year after the funeral, we hosted our first community Thanksgiving under the new sign. There were folding tables down the middle of the restaurant. Kids coloring paper turkeys. Old men arguing about football. Volunteers carrying mashed potatoes. Kelsey taking coats. Noah washing dishes. Calvin sitting in Dad's booth pretending not to cry into his coffee. Denise came near the end. I had not invited her. Kelsey had. For a moment, I felt the old anger rise. Then Denise stood by the door holding a pie and looking unsure where to put herself. Not queen. Not victim. Not replacement. Just a woman who had lost more than she expected. I walked over. You can put it on the dessert table. Her eyes filled. Thank you. That was all. No hug. No grand forgiveness. Just a pie on a table. Sometimes that is as far as healing can honestly go. Later, after everyone left, I stood alone in the dining room. The chairs were stacked. The floor smelled like lemon cleaner. Dad's apron hung by the kitchen door. I thought about the funeral program with my name missing. I still had it, folded in a box with the recordings, the key, and Dad's letters. Not because I wanted to relive the pain, because sometimes you need proof of what you survived. I thought about Ethan standing by the casket telling people he would carry Ray Bennett's legacy forward. He had been wrong about so many things. He thought legacy meant control. He thought grief made me weak. He thought being quiet meant I had no voice. He thought love made me easy to use. But the biggest mistake Ethan made was believing that because my family had erased me, I would stay erased. I did not get my father back. I did not get the marriage I thought I had. I did not get the simple family I once pretended we were, but I got my name back. I got my voice back. I got my father's truth. And slowly, painfully, I built a life where love did not require me to disappear. People ask if I regret trusting Ethan. I do not. Trusting someone who lies is not your shame. Abandoning yourself to keep them comfortable is the part that cost you years. My father's death taught me something I wish I had learned gently. Family is not who stands closest to the casket. Family is not who posts the prettiest tribute. Family is not who says legacy while reaching for the keys. Family is who says your name when others erase it. Family is who protects your dignity when you are too tired to defend it. Family is who does not need you weak to feel strong. And legacy is not a restaurant, not a house, not a bank account, not a last name painted on a sign. Legacy is whether the people who come after you feel more human because you are here. My father left me a key, but what he really left me was a choice: to keep begging for respect from people committed to misunderstanding me, or to start living like I already deserved it. So if you have ever been the quiet one, the useful one, the one everyone assumes will understand, please hear me. Being easy to love is not the same as being easy to use. Do not confuse the two. And if your family only calls you family when they need your labor, your silence, your money, or your forgiveness, maybe it is time to stop asking why they cannot see your value. Maybe it is time to start living like you already do. Now I want to ask you something. If you were in my place, would you have exposed Ethan in front of the whole family? Or would you have walked away quietly and let the truth come out later? And have you ever been erased by the people who were supposed to love you? Tell me in the comments, because someone listening tonight might finally realize they are not alone.